This story begins in a snowy Minnesota home. An elderly woman named Barb gazes sadly at the urn holding the ashes of her recently deceased husband. When she sees an old photograph of the two of them, she remembers their first date and makes a decision. Despite the freezing weather, she packs her truck, places the photo on the dashboard, and heads out onto the snowy roads. Her goal is to fulfill her husband's final wish, to scatter his ashes on the frozen lake where they met decades ago. As she drives, the radio warns of heavy snowfall and extreme cold, urging drivers to stay off the roads. As she drives, snow piles up on her truck, obstructing her visibility. Eventually, she stops in a clearing and pulls out a map, but she can't decipher the route to the lake. Frustrated, she gets out of the vehicle, lost and unsure what to do. Suddenly, she hears a loud sound in the distance. Intrigued, she gets back in the truck and drives toward the noise, arriving at a secluded, snow-covered cabin. There she sees an elderly man chopping firewood. As she approaches, she notices bloodstains on the ground. The elderly man is startled when he sees her. Barb apologizes for scaring him and asks for directions to Lake Hilda. The man tells her the lake is just over the hill, but by car she has to take the long road. Barb thanks him, and before leaving, asks about the blood. The man explains it's from a deer. Barb tells him to take care in the cold and drives away. She drives along the snowy roads until she finally reaches the lake where she and her husband met. Standing on the shore, tears fill her eyes as memories flood her mind. They used to sit together on the ice, fishing and laughing. She remembers their first date there, when her husband Carl helped her catch a fish. Just as Barb prepares to open the urn and scatter the ashes, a sudden gunshot rings out nearby. Panicked, Barb runs to hide behind her truck. From there, she sees a young woman stumbling by the lake, pursued by the same elderly man from the cabin, pistol in hand. The man shouts that if she runs again, he'll kill her, and forces her back toward his cabin. Barb tries to call the police, but there's no signal. When they disappear, Barb tries to flee, but her truck is stuck in the snow. The tires spin, getting no traction. With no other option, Barb walks back to the cabin. As she approaches, she sees the man come out, get into his truck, and drive away. Seizing her opportunity, Barb runs to the cabin and peers through the basement window. Inside, she sees the same girl, bound and gagged. Barb whispers, asking if she is alone. The girl nods. Just then, two vehicles pull up and park in front of the cabin. This time, the elderly man's wife is with him, also armed. Barb hides outside and overhears their conversation. It becomes clear that the man kidnapped the girl at his wife's request, and they plan to kill her. The wife seems to be in charge. She asks if he had any trouble, and he confirms he grabbed her leaving the pharmacy unseen. She also scolds him for drinking. While they are inside, Barb creeps to the window and writes on the glass, "I'm here. I won't leave you." Barb returns to her stuck truck, trying to think of a plan. Inside the cabin, the wife gets a nosebleed. Just then, she spots a woman's glove outside. Suspicious, she looks and sees Barb's message on the window. Realizing someone is trying to help the prisoner, she becomes enraged at her husband, demanding to know whose glove it is. He nervously claims not to know, but admits a woman stopped by earlier asking for directions to the lake and must have dropped it. The wife panics, fearing the woman saw something. She grabs her rifle, determined to hunt Barb down, and forces her husband to go with her to the lake to find her. But Barb is already at the lake and has set a trap, using her husband's old ice fishing shanty as bait. As soon as the elderly man approaches it, the ground gives way, and he plunges into the freezing water through a hole Barb prepared. The wife barely manages to haul him out of the water. While they struggle at the lake, Barb seizes the opportunity to sneak back to the cabin. She breaks down the basement door to rescue the girl, but finds her chained with a padlock. Barb tries to peel off the tape, unable to find a key. She assures the terrified girl she will save her. She goes upstairs, turns on the sink faucet, and plugs the drain, flooding the cabin. The water douses the fireplace and soaks their supplies. Just as Barb is leaving, the wife fires at her, hitting her hand. Despite the wound and the gunshots, Barb manages to escape into the snowstorm. When the couple returns, they find the cabin flooded. The water has extinguished the fire and soaked their supplies, leaving the interior freezing. The man, suffering from hypothermia after falling in the lake, is shivering violently. He suggests a hot bath, but his wife screams that it would kill him. They need to get his wet clothes off and warm him slowly with dry heat, mentioning there are blankets in the truck. Meanwhile, Barb gets back to her stuck truck and while trying to treat her hand, notices her wedding ring is missing. Heartbroken, she returns to the hole in the ice, desperately searching for the ring in the snow, but can't find it. Overwhelmed, she collapses in tears, remembering when her husband Carl proposed to her on that very lake. In that moment of grief, she spots something nearby. The elderly man's pistol, lost when he fell into the water. Barb picks it up. Determined to save the girl, she heads back to the cabin. In the cabin, the wife tries to warm her husband, but he is still shivering, weak, and complaining he can't move. Impatient, the wife tells him they don't have time. They must finish everything before morning, as they need to get to Little Fork for an appointment with the surgeon. The man asks why they don't do the operation there. The wife explains the environment must be pristine, and she doesn't want blood in her grandmother's cabin. She reveals her plan. If they do it on the lake, the police won't be able to investigate the crime scene, which won't exist by tomorrow. They plan to burn the evidence and sink it in the lake. She tells him she's going to get the girl, as she isn't safe in the cabin, and that she will then kill Barb. She drags the girl out and shoves her into the car. Just then, the man notices he lost his pistol. The wife explodes in anger, calls him an idiot, slaps him, and yells at him to go to the lake and prepare the equipment. She then drives off in the car with the girl. The man, shivering and barely able to move, drags the heavy medical equipment through the snow to the lake. Barb watches the scene from afar through binoculars. Taking advantage of the empty cabin, she sneaks inside looking for the girl, but the basement is empty. Her hand is still bleeding, so using the man's tools and her own supplies, Barb gathers her courage and stitches the wound herself. Stabilized, she goes out and breaks the window of the man's truck. She gets inside and uses the CB radio to call for help, shouting that there's a kidnapping, that 2 lunatics have a girl, and that she is injured. She tries to give the location, the cabin near Lake Hilda off Route 11 on the outskirts of Beltrami County. Just as the radio seems to pinpoint her location, the man returns. He attacks her violently, pulling her from the truck and trying to kill her. In the struggle, Barb grabs a hatchet, strikes him in the leg, and subdues him. Defeated and injured, the man tells her the truth. Crying, he confesses that his wife is very sick and forced him into all of it. He tries to justify himself, saying they chose that specific girl because she had tried to take her own life before. Barb responds coldly that it wasn't his decision to make. The man insists he isn't a bad person and begs her not to kill him. He explains he is suffering from hypothermia and needs a doctor. As proof that he was at the cabin, he returns Barb's lost wedding ring to her. Barb, seeing her ring, believes him. He tells her the nearest town is Winaska, 2 hours away. Barb orders him that if he truly is a good man, he must drive to Winaska, go straight to the police, and tell them to send the entire police force. Only then is he allowed to go to the hospital. The man promises, gives Barb the bullets he had, and drives away. But the man does not head to the police. Shortly after, his wife intercepts him. Furious, she screams at him for abandoning the lake. He, limping and bleeding, weakly says he is going to the doctor. She doesn't care and accuses him of trying to run away. He pleads for them to stop this madness, but the wife refuses, insisting she can't pass up this opportunity. Just then, the wife's nose starts bleeding again. She accuses him of only wanting to get rid of her and points the gun at him. Meanwhile, Barb returns to her stuck truck, pushes it toward the lake, and sets it on fire, creating a huge column of smoke so someone might see it. Her plan works. A short time later, 2 men in a truck who had heard her on the CB radio arrive. Barb explains the situation. She had to burn her truck, there's a dangerous woman with a kidnapped girl, and she is injured. The men, though armed, are wary. They ask if she has a gun, and when Barb admits she does, they demand she hand it over, or they will leave her there. With no choice, she complies. The 3 of them head in the men's truck toward the cabin, where they spot the wife's car. Despite Barb's warnings that the woman is extremely dangerous, the men decide to talk to her friendly-like and order Barb to stay in the vehicle. No sooner do they get out and say hello, the wife suddenly emerges and shoots them both, killing them instantly. Immediately after, she begins firing at the truck where Barb is hiding. In the chaos, Barb runs to the wife's car and makes a horrifying discovery. The elderly man is dead in the driver's seat. His wife had killed him. Barb hides behind the cabin as the woman continues shooting. A shot hits the roof, causing it to collapse on Barb and knock her unconscious. In this state, Barb remembers the day her husband Carl died. She was in the kitchen, but by the time she got to him, he had passed away sitting at the table. When Barb regains consciousness, she finds herself tied up in the basement, next to the kidnapped girl. There, Barb finally learns the girl's name, Leah. Barb is moved and tells her that Leah was the name she and Carl had chosen if they had ever had a daughter. Leah, in turn, confesses she thinks she saw the kidnapper at the hospital on a previous occasion when she had tried to end her own life. Barb, trying to give her strength, tells her a family story about how her great-grandfather survived a deadly blizzard simply by pushing forward, and she asks Leah not to give up. Barb manages to free herself from her restraints, and they both look for a way out. They find the back door of the basement, but just as they manage to open it, the woman sees them from outside and slams the door shut again, trapping them. That night, Barb remembers her husband's last wish, asking her to scatter his ashes on Lake Hilda. The next morning, the woman forces Barb and Leah to the lake, where the man had already set up a temporary medical tent. Inside, they discover, to their horror, a complete liver transplant kit. They finally understand the plan. The wife, who is dying, plans to take Leah's liver and transplant it into her own body. Barb begs her to take her instead, but the woman scoffs, saying Barb is too old and that Leah is living on borrowed time anyway. The woman orders Barb to tie Leah to the table. Barb complies, but she purposefully ties Leah loosely with duct tape and secretly passes her a nail she had found. As soon as Barb finishes, the woman shoots her. As the kidnapper prepares to operate, Barb, badly wounded, rises up in one last effort, shoves her, and stabs her with a pair of scissors. A brutal fight breaks out. During the struggle, a gas lantern is knocked over, setting the entire tent on fire. Both women stumble out of the burning tent, fighting to reach the rifle lying in the snow. The woman grabs it first, but when she tries to fire, she realizes she is out of bullets. Enraged, she grabs Barb and begins dragging her across the snow, heading for the hole in the ice that Barb herself had dug. Meanwhile, inside the burning tent, Leah uses the nail to cut the tape and manages to escape. Barb sees that Leah is safe but knows the woman won't stop. In a final act of sacrifice, Barb manages to hook her own handcuffs onto the kidnapper, chaining herself to her. With what little strength she has left, she pushes herself backward and pulls the woman with her, both of them falling into the freezing water. Leah runs screaming toward the hole, but it's too late. In her final moments underwater, Barb opens the urn and releases her husband's ashes, fulfilling his last wish. She feels peace as she sinks, having saved Leah's life. Later, Leah finds the old photograph of Barb and Carl in the snow, picks it up, and walks away. The film ends on that same photograph, showing a young Barb and a young Carl smiling happily on the lake decades ago.